The Bisect tool is the second option listed along with the knife tool. Unlike the other cutting tools we've looked at so far, the Bisect tool is capable of automatically cutting a mesh into two separate parts. When using this tool, it is often best to work from a named viewpoint position such as front. The first step is to select those faces we wish to cut through. Most of the time, we'll just select the whole mesh. When we click the mouse, this sets the pivot point for the cutting tool. Although it will show on the screen as a one-dimensional line, it is more accurate to think of it as a two-dimensional plane, somewhat like a guillotine blade. As we move the mouse, the line rotates about that pivot point. We'll see new edges added to the mesh, where the line passes through selected faces. Hidden faces will automatically be cut as long as they have also been selected. When we release the left mouse button, the Bisect gizmo will appear with its center at the cutting plane's pivot point. The arrowed line indicates the direction of the cutting plane's face, normal. Using the gizmo, we can make a few adjustments to the cut we've just created. Dragging on the yellow arrowhead will move the cuts and the pivot. As we move the mouse pointer close to the gizmo's circle, it will change from blue to white. This is an indication that we can now drag on the circle to rotate the cutting plane. The tool's last op panel has several parameters. Plane points, 3 fields, allow us to specify the location of the pivot point, while plane normals adjusts the rotation of the cut. If we check the fill box, Blender will create a face using the newly created edges. Clear inner removes the mesh elements on the back face of the cutting plane. Clear outer removes the mesh elements on the front face of the cutting plane. If we select both clear options, we're left with the newly created edges, and if we selected fill, these will form a single face. Axis threshold allows existing edges close to the cutting plane to be retained. The larger the value, the more distant a preserved edge can be. We'll demonstrate this option by creating a cube that's been subdivided 8 times, with axis threshold set to 0. The cutting plane cuts the existing mesh cleanly, but as we increase the value, existing edges beyond the cutting plane are preserved. If this option is used, it is best not to use the fill option, since this creates a face along the cutting plane that is not flat and may overlap other existing faces. One more point to note is that the fill option may not work as we cut through an object containing separate meshes that have been joined together. We can see this if we make a cut through a monkey head, where we are exposing elements from both the head and an eye. Selecting the fill has no effect. In the top left corner of the 3D viewport, we have copies of the fill, clear inner, clear outer, and axis threshold fields. Any adjustments made here affect future Bisect operations. For example, by checking fill and clear inner, any future cut automatically deletes one part of the mesh being cut through and creates a face to close off the remaining part. If we want to retain both parts of the bisected mesh, but as two separate objects, we start by making the cut as usual. Next we go to the Select menu and choose Select Loops. Select Loop Inner Region. Now we press P and choose Selection. Returning to Object Mode, we now have two separate objects. If we want to create manifold meshes with no boundaries, we can return to Edit Mode, select the open perimeter, and press F to add an enclosing face. Although there is no keyboard shortcut to activate the Bisect tool, there are a few keys we can use during the operation itself. and these are shown in the status bar. Holding down the space bar allows us to move the cutting plane when dragging the mouse. In other words, it has the same effect as dragging on the gizmo's arrow. Holding down the control key will rotate the cutting plane by increments of 5 degrees as we drag the mouse. If we have chosen to delete one of the two sections of the mesh we are bisecting by checking one of the clear boxes in the top left of the 3D viewport, pressing the F key during the bisect operation will swap which section is deleted.